The first big thing I see that I really wanted to, well, maybe I'll just tell you what both, like two of the most important things are, and we'll kind of talk about both and then we'll go from there. Again, this is not revolutionary, but I promise the examples are going to be revolutionary and really help. But it is basically like decision and consistency. And I think in a space where it feels like trust is harder to come by, or things take longer, or the market is quite saturated, or whatever like stuff we're hearing, it is so easy to forget that those two things matter. I feel like when the industry gets noisy or like this, it's so what most people's brains go to is it has to be so much bigger than this, right? It has to be huge. It has to be like so much more intense than just decision and consistency. But the thing is, decision and consistency are really huge and they actually are quite intense. And so we both think it needs to be more, but we also avoid them because they're kind of hard, right? So most people say somewhat in the middle. They don't fully commit to anything and they don't fully execute on anything. And they're right in the middle of that. And they're like, why is this so hard? Why can't I get results? And it's usually because like you're not fully committed and you're not fully executing because you're not fully committed, right? And so you're in this never ending cycle where you're doing enough that it feels like, well, I'm doing stuff that should be working, but you're not actually ever fully decided on it. And you're not actually ever like showing that commitment as it relates to like how you're showing up and doing the thing. And so the people that are getting different results are just like doing those well. They're like fully decided and they're really, really committed to it. Um, and I think also a lot of us aren't honest with ourselves about what we can't commit to. I want to talk about that for a moment too, because I have an example with myself on that. But if those two things are at play, it is so hard not to get good results. And I'm like really like serious when I say that. Like I'm not trying to like make a silly joke. Like when you can be like, I am so decided on this thing and I have showed up so committed and so consistent because of that, it would be really, really, really hard not to move the needle in your business. If those aren't true, like no matter how good your niche is, or your offer, or your value prop, or your message, or your what, la, 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 right? It really won't matter. And that's, I think, the fucked up thing is we spend so much time on all that other stuff. The offer, the value prop, the messaging, the this and the that. And I'm not saying that doesn't need time and effort. Like those are very important things. But we'll spend so much time there, you know, without the decision and consistency to like kind of anchor it or support it or come around the sides of it. And then it won't happen. And then you go do more like, okay, well, I guess I need to redo my messaging or redo my offer and it's like, no, 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 no. Like you probably had the magic right there, but if you can't pull those two things around it, it's not going to happen. Like it really isn't. And again, that can sound so simple, but it's actually like so important. And I think consistency gets a bad rap. So like we'll talk about that too. I think everybody like can eye roll consistency a bit, but like it's just true. Hi. Hi, Ponzi. Christina said, so true, it's inevitable when you show up that way. 100%, right? And actually, I think the irony is sometimes like if you show up that way, even if your message is a little subpar, or even if your marketing could use some tweaking, like you can get away with more because you have so much decision and consistency. And so um I want to talk about how consistency gets a bad rap and then we'll get into some examples. But I think consistency gets such a bad rap because it's like, oh, it just like feels boring, or it means you have to do the same thing all the time, or you shouldn't have to show up if you're like not in the right energy, blah, 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 right? There's like all these reasons. Let's see what you guys are saying. Elisa said, I know whenever I fully decide on something in my life, I always got what I wanted. Amen. Hey, Liz. Hey, Emily. It's good to see you. Um, but here's how I think about consistency that really helps me. The way I think about it is I am building a relationship with my audience. Okay. And in all of the good, deep, amazing relationships in my life, there's some measure of consistency. Okay. I have, I actually just this weekend, it was so fun. My best friend since sixth grade and I um, went away together for the weekend for our 40th birthdays, just to like have time, just the two of us. And it was like so sweet and so special. She has four kiddos. So it's like, a thing for us to do that and for us to have time where it's just the two of us. And it was like so special. And like our relationship, like our version of a relationship is we typically see each other a few times a year. We text very lightly here and there, but we are so consistent with each other. Like, I don't think there has been a single year in those, whatever, how many years? Like 30 years we've been friends now. Where like we haven't seen each other. Like, we have consistency built in. We're like, I have another best friend who, like, our version of consistency is we talk and text probably every day. You know, it doesn't have to look one specific way, but all of the relationships in my life that have depth and longevity have a measure of consistency, of something I can count on, of something I can lean into. And we just need to give that to our audience, right? Like, if you're dating someone and they're completely inconsistent, that is a turnoff. Where they like text you all day every day for like 2 weeks and then drop off the face of the earth and then come back and like want to text you once a week and then they're like, what's your problem? That none of us like that, right? And so if we just think about, like, that is part of the way we're building relationship with our audience, that is part of the way we're building trust with our audience, that's part of the way where we're showing them, like, hey, I am here to like do this thing with you. It gets so much easier and more obvious where it's like, and same with like the friendship thing. It's like sometimes in friendships, I show up as my best self, or sometimes I show up as kind of like the tired version of myself that day, or sometimes I show up as the kind of whiny version of myself, like whatever. Right. I think that's the same with content and all of that. Like, you don't have to be the perfect version of yourself all the time. But when you tell yourself you have to be the perfect version of yourself all the time, of course you will be inconsistent because you cannot be perfect all the time. That kind of goes back to what we were talking about, I think last week a bit too. And so, nothing better than middle school best friends. I know, it was so special. She like printed me off all these old pictures of us. She like made a playlist. Like, it was just 10 out of 10. Um, but you guys get what I'm saying, right? Like, we cannot have consistency when we expect this level of perfection from ourselves, because then we expect that all the time. And then we use it as an excuse. Well, I can't show up right now because I'm not as high energy as I should be, or I can't show up right now because I should be in a different vibe or whatever. And it's like that ruins business strategy way, way, way more than the vibe. And I'm not saying the vibe or the energetics don't matter, but they matter in terms of like, are we being truthful and human, and are we building trust, right? They don't matter in the sense of like, if you're not 10 out of 10 all the time, your audience won't buy from you. Like, that is such a fallacy, and it's like not real business at all. Lacey said, are those friends you see like once a year, but it seems like yesterday and you just pick up where you left off? Totally, right? So that doesn't mean like you have to like, consistency doesn't have to mean like you post 3 times a day or whatever. Like, you get to decide what your version of it means, but you sure as shit better have it with your audience, with your marketing, because if you don't, it is going to feel so chaotic. And if it feels chaotic to you, guess who it feels chaotic to? Your audience, right? Like, it really does matter. And it also matters because this is like a funny example, but I've been thinking about this lately, because Kenny and I were having this conversation. So I think I shared it on a reel. I didn't share it here, but I had shared on a reel, but it was struggling every single day to every single time he went to school with like crying at drop off, and he was going 2 mornings a week. Now it is so much better. He told himself this whole story about like, now that he's 4, he doesn't cry at school. But my point is this: when Kenny and I added it up, we're like, oh, he's only been to school, like, I can't remember what the number was, like 30 times, right? Like, it seems like a lot because it's been twice a week, but like, he's actually only been to school 30 times. He's only had 30 chances to get used to it. Where if he was going every day, he would have had that within like a month, but he's only going 2 times a week. So he's having it, in a much longer period of time. So it seems like, gosh, it's taken him forever to adjust, but actually, it's only taken him 30 days, right? We're like, that would be totally different, right? In a different world, that would only be, 5 weeks or whatever, 6 weeks. I don't know math. But like, I think that's true with strategy and stuff too. Like, you can decide your consistency is less, but you have to acknowledge that that means less time people are seeing you, less time you're getting to test the strategy, less data you're getting. Like, and none of that has to be bad, but I feel like we're in such a weird, like, gaslighty thing in our industry where we don't acknowledge that. Like, nobody's telling you that you have to post twice a day, every day. But equally, like, of course, we cannot pretend that someone posting 2 times a day, every day, doesn't have more like information built up, doesn't have more stuff under their belt, doesn't have a better idea of like what might be working and what's not. The acknowledgement of that is so important. Again, just like with the school thing, it's not like, oh, now he has to go every day. It's like, it's just important to acknowledge, like, oh, yeah, this is going to take the time it takes. Does that make sense? Um, I'm the queen of initially going all in and like super committing, but then the results don't show up for say 3 to 5 months. And I start questioning everything from my niche to offer, keep changing my mind even before 90 days. Any decision and my decisions and strategy, any tips? Yes. I think what's like really important about what you're saying, and I think all of us do this, so thank you for like being willing to share that, um, is what you could be doing, or rather should be doing, I guess you could say, although I hate that word, in the 3 to 5 months is gathering really specific data. So what it tells me when you're going, oh, it's like my niche doesn't work, my offer doesn't work, all of my decisions are wrong, my strategy is wrong. What it really tells me is like we probably just haven't nailed the specific data points that we need to figure out what's working or not working. So the value of going all in on something for 3 to 5 months is you should have a pretty detailed level of data to go, oh, it seems to really work when I do this. It doesn't work as well when I do this. Oh, people are responsive to this, they're less responsive to this. And then you do more of the thing they're responsive to, or then you make note of that. But when you go, okay, I'm just going to do this for 3 to 5 months, and then at the end of it, I'm going to go, okay, now what? It's so hard because it all feels so big and so macro when normally the tweaks are really micro. So I think this is like a perfect time to get into some of the other points that I wanted to make. So one of my clients, this is a really good one on the macro versus micro. One of my clients has had a webinar funnel for a while. And she had a couple of them, or I would say, like a string of them that were really underperforming. And so she came to me and was like, hey, do we just need to like change my offer? Like, are people just not buying this level? Because her program's pretty high ticket. Like, are they just not buying high ticket from a webinar anymore? And she was kind of like, maybe I should scrap the whole thing. Like, this just isn't a thing anymore. People aren't buying high ticket webinars or from a webinar. So I was like, let's not scrap anything. Like, we like get into the data really deeply. And I'm like, I think the problem is the webinar. I don't think it's that people aren't buying from a webinar, but if I look at all this data, I think the problem is the webinar is not like performing how it needs to. So we spent a lot of time, and I'm like going to be real about that. It wasn't like one call, bing, bang, boom. It was like we spent a considerable amount of time tweaking this webinar, updating it, making it better, doing all these things, going slide by slide, looking at it, being like, how can we say that differently? How can we sell that a little bit better? What would it look like to tweak this angle? Blah, blah, blah. Guess what? Her shit's selling via webinar. Like the next, she had, I think right after we changed it, she had one and it like went super well. And she was like, okay, wow, but maybe this is a fluke. And now she's had like 4 or 5 since then. And it's like not a fluke. Like it just really did improve it considerably. And so I say that because like that's why like decision is so important, because it's so easy to just change the decision and be like, okay, fine, people just don't buy whatever, I'll go in this other direction. It is so different to be like, if I'm committed to this path, what would it take to make this path work? Like if I am committed, it would probably look like getting in the weeds with my webinar. I'd probably look like having the patience to really tweak this thing. And I think a lot of people struggle to really have the level of decision and commitment to like get that in the weeds. But I really see again and again and again in business, like that is what makes the difference. Everybody will sell you that it's some other magic secret. We talked about that last week a little bit too. Like the internet is just waiting to sell you a magic secret. Like, somebody would have just been waiting in the wings for that client to go, oh yeah, webinars just don't work anymore. And they would be like, you know what does though is whatever, a quiz funnel. If you just built a quiz funnel, everything would work. Da, 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 da. And like kind of swoop you off to something else when it's like really what needed to happen. It wasn't just about updating her webinar, though it was, is like we really needed to talk to her audience in a slightly different way that like matched where they are now. And that's kind of what was off in the webinar because she had been doing it for a while. And so like that, if you don't tweak that and you don't get that, and then you go jump to the next thing and do like the quiz funnel or whatever, the problem is still the problem, right? Like the problem just moves with you until you fix the actual problem. Because she could have gone and built this quiz funnel and then be like, see, that's still not converting. And it's like, yeah, because we never tweak the real problem, which is like, we need to be talking about this differently. We need to have a different way we're sharing this. And so that's why like getting into the weeds with like decision, consistency, and commitment is so important, because it took several webinars to realize something was off. It took several to be like, yes, we've nailed it. It's working again. Like that is a timeline. Like that takes decision, that takes consistency and commitment, right? Like I really can't say enough like how much it takes being willing to do that. And like now looking back, is she like, oh my God, I can't believe I spent 2 months on that? No. You know what I mean? She's like, my shit works. Let's roll. Like, but like she could have ended up spending a fucking year burning this down, building something else, burning it down, building something else, like because she kept changing her mind, right? So I just think that's so important. Um, Not sure how much you can share about that example, but I'm curious how you realize that it's the content of the webinar that needed to change. Sometimes I look at the data and I'm like not getting anything out of it. Yeah, totally. So, um, like if we looked at, so I just try to like think about like what is every next step I want them to take. And so it was like, oh, are they coming to the landing page? Yes. When they go to the landing page, are they signing up at a reasonable rate? Yes. When they sign up, are they like reading our emails and stuff like that at a, again, at a reasonable industry standard rate? Yes. Okay. Are they showing up to the webinar at a reasonable rate? Yes. From the webinar, are they buying or getting to the sales page at a reasonable rate? No. That's where it tanked. So it was like, okay, so we get them all the way to this point where they're showing up to the webinar and then we're not getting sales off that. And we're not even really getting a lot of people to go to the sales page, right? And so from there, it's like, okay, well then where it starts to leak or break is where we want to fix. We don't even want to look at the sales page yet. Like, I don't even care because we're not even getting enough people there, right? We want to go here. Oh, yeah, we're getting them to the webinar, but then they're not doing what we want them to do from it. They're not buying, they're not taking an action to go to the sales page. Like, that's where the kink in the chain is basically. So if you just keep asking yourself, what's each next step? Like I would want or need them to take, and then you figure out where like that falls off. Does that help? Um, Excuse me. And also I think what's helpful about doing it from a data perspective is it doesn't just feel like a wild guess. It feels like, oh yeah, like I'm actually like doing it for this. Like this is what commitment looks like. It's not being like, oh well, like I guess I'll just try this or whatever. It's like I'm so committed to this. I'm like willing to stay in it and figure it out and look at what would help me figure that out. You know what I mean? But it also is better because it feels like something's actually showing you that. Like it's not just like, oh, well, I guess I'll just read you my webinar. It's like, no. Like all of our stuff actually points to doing that. So it feels like a worthwhile endeavor versus like a random guess. Like that's what I would think about as it relates to decision and commitment too, is like, am I just making these kind of like random guesses, or does it feel like, oh yeah, this is the next obvious right step and this is what it would look like to stay committed to it? And maybe there's something really uncomfortable about it. Like maybe you're like, I hate the webinar part. Oh, I don't want to redo it. Da, da, da. But like that's the part you have to work through to stay committed. It's just like, again, we'll use a relationship example. Like maybe what you have to do to stay in a really good relationship with your partner is have conversations that are really uncomfortable. And you're like, oh, I don't want to have that conversation. But like that conversation is what keeps you committed in your relationship? Um, Christina said, I think there is. Oh, I'm glad that was helpful, Elise. Thanks. I think there's comfort in doing something new and burning it down over iterating small steps over time. I think about this all the time with Instagram audiences. Sure, you may want to be marketing to new, but that takes time. So how can we bridge during that time rather than burn one thing completely down for something else that's not there yet? 100%. It's so juicy. It's so exciting to be like, fuck that. It's so much like, again, even in a relationship, right? It is so much easier sometimes to just be like, I just need to find someone else without this stuff. Instead of being like, no, like I'm committed to this person. How do we work through this stuff? This might be a totally different live, but can you talk about how to navigate what consistency might look like when you're between seasons or changing your primary niche offer? But you may not know exactly where you're going. Asking for a friend. Yes, we can talk about that in just a sec. Thank you. I think more with Instagram content, it can feel a bit harder because there are so many variables that I could tweak, if that makes sense. I even think there, though, I would try to think about like, what did I want this reel to do or this carousel to do or whatever. Like, and am I seeing people do that? Like Did I mostly want this to just like reach new people? Did I really want this to convert? Were people reaching out because of it? Was my intention here really to nurture them? Are people engaging with me because of it? I mean, it's not always going to be perfect one-to-one, right? But like, I do think even that, like, if it's easier to spot where the data has issues if you know what the intention is. If there's not a clear intention, data is just numbers, right? If you know what the point was or what the intention was, the data gets really interesting, you know? Um, Literally have a workshop about that combo with your partner tonight. So important. I love that, Lacey. That's perfect. Um, yeah, that is gold. Pick one objective, reach, trust, or conversion, and only optimize for that. Exactly. Like objective is a better way to say it, right? Like if you know the objective, the data will tell you if you're close to it or not. But if you don't know the objective, it's always going to feel random. It's sort of like that funnel example I described. If you don't know the objective of like, oh yeah, we want them to do this, and then we want them to do this, and then we want them to do this, it'll feel so confusing because you'll be like, oh, the only objective is to make sales. And so if we're not making sales, it's all broken. But right, if you're like, no, 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 there are like 10 objectives in here, and where are we meeting them? It gets so much easier. I posted reels that have gotten terrible views with the goal of making one sale, and that's the only metric I care about. Spot on. Yes. When it's someone else's data, it's so much easier to analyze and diagnose. But as soon as it's mine, there's so much resistance to identifying because I feel like I have to redo all my effort. It's a mindset issue, and I know the work needed to fix, but it doesn't make it easier to do the work. I totally get that. I mean, listen, it is always so much easier to look at someone else's shit. And especially because, like you said, then it often means something. You know, like for me, it was easier to look at the client stuff and be like, we need to redo the webinar. Where for her, it's a little bit harder because she's like, oh my God, I need to redo a fucking webinar. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I totally agree with you. I think that is so normal. Unfortunately so, but that's why we have support and coaching and all of the things. So here's an example I want to use that's kind of like a little bit off where we're going, but I think it's important around decision. So when I was writing about this and I was thinking about decision, something that I thought about that came up for me was deciding that you get to be successful in 2026, because the example that came up for me is in 2020 when COVID hit. I feel like our industry went like this, right? I feel like there were some people that were like, this is the worst thing for our industry. We're all losing clients. Oh my gosh, this is terrible. I mean, I'm sure some of y'all weren't even a bit like in your business yet then, but like, trust me, it was like that weekend when like things were getting shut down, like there were some people that were like, this is going to completely tank my business. And then there were other people that was like, nope, this gets to be the time we make sales. This gets to be the time our industry rises. This gets to be like even better than we can imagine. And I literally remember having conversations with every single one of my clients. I know I did live streams, I whatever. And I was like, this is your decision moment. Are you someone that thrives during COVID, or are you someone that says they have to shut down their business? Like, you get to fucking decide. And I feel like 2026 is another version of that. You get to decide, like, this is the year shit takes off for me. This is the year it gets good. Or you get to be like, but people are saying there's a trust recession and the market's saturated and AI is coming. Like, sure, all that might be true. You need to work on trust. You need to figure out what you're doing with AI. Like, none of that's wrong, but like you have to decide that like you're going to be able to capitalize on that. You are someone that is going to figure all that out. You are someone that like has a skill set that transcends all of that bullshit right now, right? And I'm not even saying it's bullshit in the sense that it's not true. Like AI is coming, it is in use, but I'm saying it's bullshit in the idea of like all that fear-mongering marketing that's around of like everyone will be out of business by 2020 or whatever, 2029 or something like that. Like you get to decide if you believe that's true or not. Right now, I do not believe that's true for me. The only way I'm going to be out of business in 2029 is if I fucking decide to be. Like, that is the thing. So yes, this is small decisions on like, how do I decide about this funnel or whatever, but it's big decisions too on like, how do I decide this is for me? How do I decide this gets to work? And I will tell you, I had a friend in 2020 who absolutely like, it took her out. Like from a mindset perspective, she was like, this COVID thing is gonna tank everything. And I remember she lost, I think 10 clients that weekend, right? And she was like, are all your clients losing clients? And I'm like, babe, nobody lost a client. Like, that's not what we're deciding. right? And so it really does matter what your level of decision is on the small front of like, I decide to fix my funnel, and on the big front of like, I decide to not get swept up in all this, because there's always something to get swept up in. Like this AI thing is like a new version of the COVID thing, of the whatever, like there's always some version of that, right? And you just have to decide how swept up in it you get. Um, I think this is so true. And it's why I invest in coaching, because I think it, on my own, it would be hard. Totally. Absolutely. Having support makes it easier. Coach and done for you providers. Yes, absolutely. I feel like the longer I'm in business, the more so there's always something that's failing, i.e., when people were saying blogging is dead. Right. And I mean, I think the like absolute irony of it is like now it's like one of the things AI is pulling from, and one of the best ways to like show up, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's my point. Like, there's always a thing, and like, you have to decide. So, whenever I think about that, I think back to that COVID time. Like, my business blew the fuck up then. Right. And if I go back and I like watch that old live stream that I did right when it happened, like, I was like, this is mine. This is such a random story. I don't even know why I'm going to tell you this, but I'm going to tell you guys this really quick. I was in this situation in my old job. Um, let me think of how I can explain this in a very, very succinct way. In my old career. And there were three of us at a management level. We come into the office one day, and our director had said, hey, remember to bring these things with you. And I have like an announcement to make. So the three of us come into this office, and it was kind of like a weird thing where you're like, okay, why am I bringing this stuff, and why does she have an announcement? So the three of us come in, and she's like, hey, did you bring this stuff? And I'm like, yep, here you go. I brought this stuff. And the other one said, oh, I totally forgot. I'm so sorry. And the other one said, well, usually that gets delivered office to office. So like, I didn't bring it. I was like, those dumbasses. She gave like explicit instruction. Like, what are they doing? And then she was like, cool. So we're consolidating the three management positions into one director level position, and you guys are all going to interview for it today. And I remember being like, this is fucking mine. Like, and by the way, it made no sense that it was mine. I was the absolute newest out of all three of them by a lot. I was the youngest by a lot. And one of them had been there for 10 years, and one of them had been there for, I think, 15 years. Like, it made no goddamn sense. And I was like, this is mine. Nobody's taking this from me. I was so decided. And so, like, my point in saying that is like, I did the right thing, i.e., I brought the stuff. You know what I mean? And then I was like, I am so decided this is mine. And I remember being like, I'm not talking to anyone. I'm not listening to their stuff. I'm not getting in the weeds of like, because once she left the room, the other two were like, this is horrible. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go take some time by myself. Like, I was like, I am not getting in all of this. And guess what? Of course, I got that spot. In that position. And so like, I just have so many examples where I'm like, when I fucking decided, it went my way. And so I feel like this is just one of those moments where 2026, like everyone will tell you things are going to do this and it's going to be so bad and sis. And I'm not saying it's not helpful to be like, oh yeah, AI is a real thing. We have to figure out how our businesses adapt to that. Or, oh yeah, trust is in short supply. How are you the one supplying it? But when you believe that you're going to be successful, it's so easy to overcome those. When you think there's this huge risk that you're not going to be successful, it's really fucking hard to overcome those, right? So I feel like that part is so important. Um, but it also typically comes with consistency. So another example I'll give you is well, one of my clients is like really run with and done such an amazing job on Substack. And she just believes in Substack so much. Like she is like, Substack is it. Like her decision level there is so high. And she has been exceptionally consistent with it. Like, and because she's so decided that it is like such an amazing platform in place, it has been so easy for her to be consistent. And I would say she's more consistent there than almost anywhere in her business because she is so in belief, right? So in decision. For me, I also really believe in Substack. However, I know that at this point in my life, I have not yet carved out the bandwidth to be as consistent there as I want to be. I will in the next month, I think. More on that coming, but I have like a lot going on personally right now, which is very exciting stuff. But like I just know I can have all the decision in the world, but like the opportunity for the consistency of writing one Substack a week is probably not present for me for the next month or two. And I'm going to be real with myself about that. I'm not going to get on there and then beat myself up and form all these beliefs that like Substack doesn't work for me and I'm so inconsistent and blah, 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 blah. I'm so careful about what I will do to myself and what beliefs I am willing to put into my brain. And so I don't mean you have to wait to be perfect, but like I am saying, if you know something requires consistency and you take it on knowing you can't meet that level of consistency, you are going to be frustrated as fuck. And you're going to be developing all these beliefs in your head about what's wrong with you. And that's another thing I think I see people doing really wrong in 2026 is they're trying to do so many things at once that they don't have decision or consistency behind any of them, right? But they feel like they're working really, really hard because they're doing so many things. Instead of just being like, hey, the reality is like, this is what I can commit to. Like, I know for me, I used to be able to play that game in business where I could just do all the things. Like, I just can't play that game anymore. I have a small kid and I'm like, I just turned 40. Like, I'm not trying to get tired like that. You know what I mean? I'm not saying I'm not ambitious. I'm just like realistic about like what makes me happy and what makes my life feel good. And so even if I am indecision about Substack or have belief around that, my consistency of my ability with consistency needs to match that. And when those two things line up, I'm going to crush it. And if those two things aren't there, I'm not going to pretend I should be crushing it. You know what I mean? Um, Elisa said, because when I decided, wait, because when you were decided, you were like, yes, I will get there. How do I do this? And when you are not decided, you are like, oh my gosh, let me think about all the reasons why I can't have it. Perfectly said. Perfect summary. Right. And I think honestly, it's very similar with consistency. Like when you're consistent, you're like, yeah, of course this is going to work. Look at me showing up. When you're like, oh, I should be showing up. Look at how much I suck. Da, da, da. It takes you down this whole other rabbit hole that's not real. It's just like, realistically, like my personal life is not affording me the time for that right now. That's totally cool. There's nothing wrong with that. I just am going to show up there when I know I can give it what I got so that I'll actually get the results from it instead of half-ass showing up for the next 2 months and then being like, yeah, Substack didn't work how I thought it was going to work. Like it does take consistency no matter how much I believe in it, right? Like Christina can attest to this with Instagram. Like you can believe Instagram is amazing and going to work for you and the best platform ever, but like realistically, you still have to give it consistency in order for it to do that, right? You get to decide what your version of consistency looks like. But again, if you do 30 posts in a month versus, I don't know, 30 posts in 4 months, it will be different. It just will, right? Neither is bad, neither is worse. But if we start telling the truth about this stuff, then we stop making all these stories in our head and we start going, oh, yeah, the truth is I can't show up in the way I would need to for the consistency and growth that I want. Cool. What does it look like to rework stuff so I can? Instead of how do I just keep pretending I can when I can't? Right. So that's why like the decision and consistency piece are so intertwined because like, yes, make the decision, but make sure you can match it with consistency. Like what I did with the Substack thing was I was like, I'm going to write a Substack a week and see how that feels before I go live. And I think I wrote three pretty easily. And then like, again, this personal stuff, which I'm going to talk about soon. It's like a fun thing to share, but this personal stuff kind of came up and I was like, oh, it is unrealistic right now for me to do that. I'm not going to put myself in a bad position where now I think, whatever, it's not working and blah, blah, blah. I'm going to go, yeah, that could wait a couple months. Like there is magic in that. And it's not to make you go slower. I will go faster on Substack because I am willing to do that, right? Seema said this is something I talk to my clients about too. I'm never insisting on how they need to be consistent. We'll try to work with what's possible with their life, but we're not going to try to do everything possible because that's the path to stress and burnout, 100%, right? And you are not going to make it through 2026 if you do not decide it's for you and you do not show up consistently because that is where you build self-trust. I actually did something recently for I did a little talk recently for one of Christine's masterminds, and she said something really beautiful in it. And she was saying that when she was at the event at my house, like all my clients are so different, and they have such different personalities, different variety, different businesses, but like the thing they all have in common is self-trust. And I could not agree more. Like this decision and consistency is how you create self-trust. And when you create self-trust in business, you are absolutely unstoppable. When you do not have self-trust, all of the industry noise will eat you alive. It will take you under. Like if you do not trust yourself, seeing that crazy ass headline about how nobody's going to have businesses in 2029 will absolutely eat you the fuck alive. If you're like, try me, it's a whole different thing, right? Like for real. And like, listen, I'm an Enneagram 8, so I have that try me energy, but like it could be any version for you. It could be like, I got this or whatever. But like the point is, like when you trust yourself, all of that noise that makes decision and consistency so hard, it just turns down. When you're not trusting yourself, it turns up so high that you cannot hear how your own like decision and consistency will make or break your business because you're listening to everything else and it's like coming at you a mile a minute. Um, Not me so distracted, click clacks fingers, excited to hear what's going on soon. It's nothing business wise. It's just like a fun personal evolution that I'm going to share about. But that has been taking like time and energy. But like the thing I will say here is like this is again like across and actually I have another example here of a client who also started a Substack. By the way, it's not like an advertisement for Substack. It's just another good example because it's like a new platform to them. And like it's so hard to start something new when you're like already quite into something else, right? Like it's hard to go from like whatever, here are 20,000 people I'm talking to like here are three or whatever, right? Um, but she was like, I am decided I am doing this. I'm going to commit to it for X amount of time, no matter what. And it doesn't mean she didn't question it a little bit through it. Like there were certainly a few conversations where she was like, oh my God, am I really committed to this? Yes. Okay, I am. And she would like recommit. Right. But like in such a short amount of time, and this is a totally different client, by the way, this isn't even the one I was talking about earlier, but in such a short amount of time, she has seen so much traction from that. But it just took build up. Like it took a bunch of weeks where it looked like nothing was happening until now she's had a few weeks where she's like, damn, got that client from there. Damn, got that client from there. Wow, somebody reached out to me to schedule a discovery call for high level one-on-one because of this. Da, da, da. Like it just takes the time it takes sometimes like to build consistency. But if you stay committed to it, it will feel like a long time sometimes, right? Like those couple months can feel like eternity, but it will actually be so quick. Where if she had been like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to try the Substack thing. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Oh, I'm going to post here. Oh, I'm not going to post for 4 weeks. I'm going to post there. She would spend this whole year being like, Substack doesn't work for me. But she was like, this is uncomfortable. And I am showing up here every week, no matter what. And this is really weird for me to be in this like totally different position, to be starting over, starting new. And I am here for it. Like, I was just getting clients from there in a matter of like a couple months, you know? It really, really matters. And the two Substack people I talk about have very different Substack strategies. Like it's not about the strategy. The strategy is important. I really don't want to pretend that it's not, but it is like it is the like second layer, not the first layer, right? The first layer is that decision and that consistency and that commitment. Strategy is like the second layer. It's the stuff we're tweaking. It's the redoing the webinar. It's the, oh, that article really popped. What if we did another one like that? But like you have to be consistent and committed enough to even have the data to know that. That's the important part, right? Like you won't get, it's like, again, back to that school thing of like 30 days at school in 4 months or in 4 weeks is totally different. Only because you have enough under your belt to know, to go, oh yeah, it's easier. Oh yeah, this is how my day goes. Oh yeah, it is really safe here. Da, da, da. Right? Like, so if you do the same thing, if you think about any platform or anything you're committed to, of course, like that is a big difference maker. Like being able to go, oh yeah, I posted an article every week for the last 8 weeks. Of course, I know this one does better. Oh, it's really interesting to see this. If I'm like, oh, I only posted 6 times in the last year, it's going to be really hard. It's going to take a long time. It's going to be like, does it work? Does it not work? Like you're trying, like at that point, to me, what we're trying to be is the outlier versus the norm. And I never ever want to shoot for the outlier. A lot of my clients do get outlier results, but I will tell you, we are so rarely, if ever, shooting for outlier results, right? Right. So outlier results would be like, I only posted 4 times. One of them went viral, it popped off, and everything worked. That happens. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but I'm never trying for that to be the thing because like I don't want to try for that for 4 years. I want to be consistent for 4 months and get the result. Do you know what I mean? So this is the difference maker in 2026 because I think, again, there's always something, but I think it's loud right now, trying to tell you it's not going to work or trying to tell, like, scare you enough to get you to buy their shit or trying to tell you, like, if you don't fix this one thing, you'll be taken down. Right? It was exactly the same with COVID. Like one of the things then that like people would say to me is like one-on-one is never going to work now anymore. It's only going to be about courses. It's only, and I was like, whatever. That's not for me. I don't buy into that. Bye. Um, the same is going to be true now. Like if you're not doing XYZ thing, you're not even going to have a business. If you're not so ahead on AI, but none of this is true. Again, I'm not saying don't learn AI. I'm not saying don't continue to be strategic. I'm just saying if you get decided and you get committed and you stay consistent with it, it will be so hard for you not to stay in business and continue to create success. If all of that stuff gets in the way of your decision and consistency and commitment, guess what? It's going to be really, really hard to maintain success. And then you're going to go see it was because of AI. No, it was because the decision and commitment wasn't there, you know? Um, so true about industry noise. I was in a community until January where everyone said the coaching industry is going to die soon because of AI. And I'm literally seeing it affect a few members. Oops, hold on. And I'm literally seeing it affecting a few members in it who are actually doing so good before. As you said, it's eating them slowly alive to the point that a few of them have literally left the coaching industry, which is so sad as they were really good in their niche. That like actually breaks my fucking heart. Thank you for sharing that because I think that's really transparent and so helpful. But like that is heartbreaking, you guys, right? And also, as a sidebar, and then I'll stop. Like, this is why we have to acknowledge what important roles we have in this industry in terms of what we're willing to say, what we're putting out there. And like, because you could make someone stop their business because you like want to use this fear tactic in marketing. You know, like that's scary shit. But like, for the love of God, do not be someone who does that to people. Remind them of their decision. Like, remind them that they can decide if this, you know, like how this works for them, right? Like, I think the idea that like there will be no coaching industry is just genuinely something no one can know. Like, it's not like we've had this happen before and we can study it and we know exactly and but. Like, nobody fucking knows. We have to acknowledge that. Nobody knows. We are on the precipice of decision. It's just like when there are huge economic recessions or depressions, like some businesses absolutely go out then, and some of the most successful businesses in the world were built then, right? Like there is no across the board. There is no coaching industry. There is who survives and who thrives and who doesn't in this season. And almost all of that comes back to decision. And again, it doesn't mean it's not strategy, messaging, etc. But if you have that decision and commitment and consistency, the strategy, messaging, et cetera, is so easy to tweak and, you know, continue to get better at. If you don't have that, those are never going to happen. Okay. So I hope this helps. You have the ability to make a decision right now and you can make it on your behalf. Again, it doesn't mean we pretend like stuff isn't happening. That's happening. It just means you use that decision to believe in yourself and trust yourself enough to handle it. You use watching your consistency as a way to trust yourself more and go, I'll pivot with that. I'm consistent as fuck. Try me. Right? Like all of that can serve you so much and it will be the deal breaker, right? Like the coaching industry is not dying yet, right? But in this example, some people have already decided it is before it has. Like we do not want to do that to ourselves, truly. It is not worth it. And it is just based on someone's marketing because they want to pretend like they know things they don't. Okay. So I hope this is helpful. Decision, consistency. Those are your best friends. If you do those things, it is almost inevitable. If all this other stuff gets in the way of it, it's going to feel really hard. Cool. All right. I will be back next week. I appreciate you guys so much for being here. I hope you have a wonderful week and happy Monday, and I'll talk to you then. Bye, y'all.